Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take that absolute fire hose of insider info, all the articles, the research, the front office chatter, and we boil it all down for you.
Yeah, we try to find the signal in the noise. And today, we're diving into really the fundamental conflict that is tearing at the NBA.
It's this overwhelming incentive that makes it not just possible, but completely rational for a franchise to fail. On purpose.
It is the ultimate business paradox. I mean, you've got a system where the smartest thing for one team to do for its future is to actively make the league's product worse for everyone. We've gone through a huge stack of source analysis here, game results, memos, some deep trade market valuations.
So the mission today is to really unpack that incentive structure. We need to get into the economics of losing, why the league's big attempt to fix this whole tanking thing just completely backfired.
And then we have to look at what happens to a star player, a really talented, highly paid guy like Morant, when that whole structure just causes his value to completely collapse.
And we have to start with this one image. It's the single defining picture of the problem. Our sources told us this story about a league exec who sent a photo to a competitor, and it just says everything.
It was taken during the fourth quarter of a Utah Jazz game. And not just any game, their worst loss in franchise history. They got absolutely hammered 150-95 by the Charlotte Hornets.
And in the photo, you see the Jazz coach, Will Hardy, and he's just leaning back against the scorer's table, almost sitting down. He looks totally relaxed.
And right next to him is Danny Ainge, the team president, and he's just smiling, chatting with the owners. The score is irrelevant. The effort on the court is irrelevant.
The executive who sent the photo just added one caption.
The picture of tanking.
That photo, it's so powerful because it just confirms the motive. It's this moment of relaxed acceptance of failure.
Because the failure is the goal. It all goes back to that core principle we talked about from Charlie Munger. Show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome.
And the outcome is what we're seeing. Intentional, public, historic losses.
Because the incentive structure demands it.
Okay, so let's break down those incentives.
Yeah.
We can start with a couple of case studies from the sources. Let's look at the Jazz.
Right. So the reason they had that historic blowout against the Hornets, a team with the exact same record, by the way, it's not complicated, they ruled out their star player, Lauri Markkanen.
And the reason was just rest.
Just rest. But there was no back-to-back travel, no fatigue warning. He was just sitting.
Why? What's the specific goal there?
Their goal is mathematically precise. They have to keep their top 8 protected pick.
Right. For anyone who doesn't live in the CBA weeds, what does that mean exactly?
It means the Jazz owe a future first-round pick to another team. But if they finish with one of the 8 worst records in the league, the protection kicks in, and they get to keep that pick. It just rolls over to next year.
And the desperation is so high because this is, what, the third year of this?
Exactly. This is year 3 of them being in this protected pick cycle. So if they finish with the 9th worst record, or anything better, they suddenly lose this really valuable asset they've spent 3 years trying to hold on to.
So losing that one specific game to the Hornets, who are their direct competition at the bottom, that's actually more valuable than winning.
Far more valuable. And the Washington Wizards are in the exact same boat. They have a top 8 protected pick that goes to the Knicks if they finish 9th or higher.
And suddenly their new guy, Trae Young, is sitting out with a very conveniently timed quad contusion.
A quad contusion and a knee injury, yes. The injury is the public cover, but the incentive is identical. The financial health of the franchise depends on keeping that pick.
And if you zoom out, this whole desperate situation, it comes from this undeniable truth about how you build a real contender in the NBA.
It's just a fact. The evidence is overwhelming. To be a true championship-level team, you need 1, maybe 2, of the top 5 or 10 players in the entire league.
And for most teams, probably 2/3 of the league.
The only way to get that kind of generational talent is through the draft. It's the only path.
It's the price of admission. We always point to the Spurs as like the gold standard for well-run teams.
Right, but even they had to be bad to get good. Their whole era of success was built on getting those top picks. Tim Duncan, David Robinson, you can't get those guys any other way.
And our source analysis on their recent draft record proves the point. They spent years drafting in the peens. Guys like Lonnie Walker, Lucas Shamanic, Keldon Johnson.
Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sochan. And look, they're all good NBA players. They're professionals.
But they didn't build a playoff team. They had to bottom out completely, drive the car into a ditch to get Victor Wembanyama.
It's the difference between building you know, a solid 45-win team and building a real contender. A great front office can turn the 19th pick into a good starter, maybe even an all-star one time.
But you can't turn the 19th pick into a top 5 player in the world.
Never. You need to be in that top 4 of the lottery. And that single realization is why teams will crawl over broken glass just to get a few extra percentage points of draft advantage.
Now, you have to remember, the league did try to fix this. They saw the public embarrassment of it all, that Jazz photo, and a few years ago, they made a huge change. They flattened the lottery odds.
Yeah, to try and take away the incentive for being just absolutely historically terrible.
And what's so fascinating is how that reform has just completely and totally backfired.
It really has. I mean, by flattening the odds, what they did was they dramatically reduced the reward for being the worst team. It used to be the worst team had a 25% chance at the #1 pick.
And now?
Now the bottom 3 teams all share the exact same odds, 14%.
So the prize for being the absolute worst is almost cut in half. The humiliation, the empty seats.
Yeah.
It's just not worth the math anymore.
Exactly. But who does that help? It ended up incentivizing the mid-lottery teams. The teams that are like 7th to 11th worst, they're the ones who now have a real chance to leapfrog everyone and grab the top talent.
We've seen it happen over and over since the change.
Oh yeah, Zion Williamson, John Morant. The Hawks jumped from 10th to get a top pick. There's less risk in being the 7th worst team now, but you still have a real path to getting into that top 3.
Which means the teams that really commit to being awful, the ones in the basement, they're often getting punished for it now.
Last year, 3 of the 4 worst teams fell completely out of the top 4 in the lottery. That just makes teams like the Jazz and the Wizards even more desperate because now they know that even maximum failure doesn't guarantee them the prize they need.
And there's this hidden cost to all of this, something that goes way beyond just the draft picks.
Yeah, the euphemism for tanking is always player development. You sit the vets, you play the young guys 40 minutes a night.
Right.
But when losing is actually part of the plan, you introduce what our sources call organizational rot.
Tell me more about that rot. How does that actually happen?
Because the players, especially the young guys, they stop learning accountability. They stop learning what it takes to win. If the outcome of the game doesn't really matter to the front office, you stop learning how to execute under pressure in the last 2 minutes.
You're not developing good habits?
You're developing terrible habits in non-competitive situations. And that rot, that lack of focus, it just creeps into the locker room and it poisons the whole culture, makes turning things around so much harder, even after the new talent arrives.
So we have this league structure where tanking is the smart play, but it creates a product where, what, a third of the games are just wretched, as one source put it?
It's a huge problem.
So can the league actually tweak these incentives without, blowing the whole system up? I mean, relegation is not happening.
No, that's a non-starter. The NBA is built on competitive balance. The league has to find a way to give these bottom teams a reason to win games late in the season.
So what's the best idea on the table?
The one that's being discussed most seriously is flipping the lottery incentives around midseason.
Okay, how would that work?
The idea is, around the All-Star break, maybe March 1st, the whole metric changes. Instead of losses counting toward your lottery odds, suddenly, for the bottom teams, wins start counting toward better draft odds for the last 30 games or so.
So you're creating a race to the middle, basically.
You're creating a race to the middle. You're forcing the Jazz and the Wizards to actually try to compete down the stretch. It would completely eliminate this situation we have now, where fans are paying for tickets to watch 2 teams actively try to lose for 2 solid months.
But wait, let me push back on that. Wouldn't that just create a new incentive to lose your mind until March 1st? You're just shifting the goalpost on when the tanking happens.
It does shift the dynamic, yes, but it cleans up the product during the most important part of the year, the playoff push. Right now, the race to lose gets worse after the trade deadline.
Sure.
By flipping the incentive after March 1st, you compress the intentional losing, and you guarantee a competitive product in the spring, which is when basketball should be at its absolute best.
That does make sense. Yeah. What about the other idea, just giving all the non-playoff teams the same odds?
That one creates an even bigger problem, a massive moral hazard.
How so?
Well, if you give everyone the same odds, a team sitting in 9th or 10th place would have a huge incentive to intentionally avoid the play-in tournament.
Oh, why?
Why would you fight for a 1-game shot at the 8th seed when you can just sit your best players, guarantee you get into the lottery, and have the same odds as the worst team in the whole league?
You kill the play-in.
Yeah.
And you just create a new race to lose right outside the playoffs.
So that mid-season flip, it seems like the best option. It puts a ceiling on the failure.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, because this whole toxic structure, it doesn't just affect draft picks. It's now affecting star players.
Right.
We have to pivot to the trade market, and specifically, Ja Morant.
Yeah, he's what the league is calling a distressed asset.
And the word was that all these young max contract point guards, Morant, Trae Young, LaMelo Ball, could be available. Their teams have all kind of plateaued.
And the market has spoken very clearly. The value for that type of flawed star player is incredibly low right now.
We saw it with Trae Young's trade. The return was an expiring contract and a flyer on a former lottery pick. That's a humbling return.
It's humbling, and it confirms that good teams just don't have an appetite for stars that come with baggage, whether it's on the contract, their behavior, or their defense.
Which brings us to Ja Morant. He is the absolute definition of a distressed asset.
His value is just being crushed. It's a combination of things, the off-court issues, the league suspensions. He even had a team suspension this year, and his production is just falling off a cliff.
He's having, arguably the worst year of his career?
Statistically, yes. In terms of efficiency, his three-point shooting is very, very poor. But I was stunned by the internal analytics our sources got from inside the Grizzlies.
They're 6-12 when he plays this year, which is already bad.
But it's the net rating difference. That's the critical piece of data.
Explain that for us. What is net rating?
It's pretty simple. It's just the point differential per 100 possessions. It measures how much better or worse your team is when a specific player is on the court.
And the numbers for Morant are shocking.
They're shocking. When Morant is on the floor, the Grizzlies' net rating is a brutal negative 7.9. That is a bottom 5 number in the entire league.
Wow.
But when he's off the floor and their undrafted rookie Cam Spencer is running the point, the team's net rating is a solid plus 3.8.
So that's a nearly 12-point swing.
That is.
That's not just bad, that's a total breakdown.
It's a breakdown. It shows that the team's entire system, the chemistry, the defense, it all works significantly better when their foundational star is not playing. The infrastructure is fine, but the centerpiece is breaking it.
And so now the Grizzlies are just desperate to move.
Desperate. One source put it perfectly, the juice ain't worth the squeeze anymore. There was apparently a really loud, ugly confrontation with the coach, and that basically sealed it for the locker room. Everyone knows he's gone.
And the timing couldn't be worse. For those Europe Showcase games coming up, he's supposed to be the headliner.
It's incredibly awkward. But the clock is ticking. They signaled their new direction when they traded Desmond Bane and extended Jaren Jackson Jr. The core is now JJJ and whoever they can get in the draft.
And the expected return from Morant is humbling.
Very humbling. If they want to get multiple first-round picks back, they're probably going to have to take on some ugly long-term salaries from another team.
Which just proves he's seen as a problem to be solved, not a star to be acquired.
The market is clear. Talent alone, even elite talent, just cannot overcome the chaos and the risk in today's NBA.
Okay, let's zoom out from all this chaos and the cold reality of the trade market. Let's talk about a team that is succeeding despite all these pressures. I'm talking about the Denver Nuggets.
It is a genuine miracle of competitive culture. I mean, our sources, like everyone else, were sure the Nuggets would just fall off a cliff when Nikola Jokic was out.
And instead, they went on this unbelievable tear. They were ripping off wins against real contenders. Boston, Philly, Toronto, Milwaukee.
And they did it with a skeleton crew. I mean, a genuinely astonishing group of starters. Hunter Tyson, Spencer Jones, Jalen Pickett, Peyton Watson, with Aaron Gordon stepping up.
The difference makers weren't just the usual guys either. It was deep bench players.
This is the absolute opposite of organizational rot. It shows a culture so deep that your 12th or 13th man is ready to perform at a playoff level. You had guys like Tim Hardaway Jr. dropping 25 points with a plus 27, plus minus.
And Zeke Naji with a plus 22, 14 points, 10 rebounds. Just filling up the stat sheet.
That kind of depth and effort is what happens when losing is simply not an option.
And in stark contrast to that, we have the drama with Jaylen Brown after a loss to the Spurs.
Oh yeah, he went on an absolute tear about the officiating. He actually named the crew chief, Curtis Blair, and basically suggested there's a conspiracy against the Celtics.
Which is a classic case of misplaced frustration, right?
Yeah, it is. And the context is key here. His complaints came right after a horrific fourth quarter for him personally. He went 1 for 9 from the field, had 2 huge turnovers. He was a big reason they lost that game.
So he's probably looking at a hefty fine from the league for that.
A very hefty fine, especially for naming the official. It's just what